council tax could rise up to £240 in the next few years, reports suggest, to foot the bill for the social care reforms across the country. On the AJ Bell Money and Markets podcast, Head of Finance Laura Suter discussed the rising bills that Britons may face this winter and how it could affect everyday lives. She said, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, IFS, have already predicted that over the next few years we could see £240 increase to average council tax bills. Even at its best case scenario where central government allocates a decent amount of funding to local councils, we will still see about £160 a year added to our bills within the next few years. This increase comes at a time where the energy prices, and the cost of living is on the rise due to the inflation. It's important for each person to be able to look at their outings, and putting together a budget just to prepare for the rises that have come, and that are on their way. During the pandemic, local councils had to help fund their communities, so money available was already being stretched. However, with the recent care funding allowance, some of the burden may fall on local councils again to provide for their members. She continued, the average Band D, which is kind of the middle band council tax bill in England, is just shy of £1,900 a year. That's already risen about £7 a month this year already, and we're expecting another big increase in that. The change is set to come following the budget announcement next week, when the government will state how much money they will be able to allocate local councils to help pay for these care costs. Ms. Suter added, if they don't allocate a lot of money, then local councils are going to have to raise council tax in order to claw back and raise some of that money. The IFS has said the council tax increases will need to be at 3.6% per year for the next 3 years under current government spending plans. This would be to ensure councils can provide the same range and quality of services as offered pre-pandemic. The think tank estimates the average annual bill paid by households would increase by £160 by 2024-25, or £77 after accounting for inflation. However, it also warned this was likely to be the minimum acceptable requirement, and that it was more likely councils could easily increase the necessary rise to 5% per year. People will usually have to pay council tax if they are over the age of 18, and own or rent their home. A full bill is based on at least 2 adults living in a home, and spouses and partners who live together are jointly responsible for making sure the bill is met. There may be discounts available for those who live on their own, or if no one in the home counts as an adult, for example. The reason for potential council tax rises has also been pegged to social care funding, and the government's ambitions to reform the system. David Phillips, Associate Director at IFS, said, the recently announced social care reforms pose major challenges for councils across England. The funding announced by government so far is unlikely to be enough to meet all of its objectives, in either the short or longer term. Without sufficient funding, councils may find themselves having to tighten the care needs assessments further in order to pay for the care cost cap and more generous means testing arrangements. That would see some poorer people who would now be eligible losing access to council-funded care, so that coverage can be extended to other, typically financially better off, people.